I'm Ashley Fox of ESPN.
Carroll even said, he's like, a lot of Richard Sherman's problems last year were self-inflicted. Sure. Raiders owner Mark Davis said if the city of Oakland would have them in 2019, they'd like to play there. Well, Jerry Jones said last week at the NFL owners meeting that the new timeline for the Tony Romo decision is the start of training camp.
We're talking about practice. Who here doesn't know what professional athlete said that? We're talking about practice.
I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we're talking about practice.
So I had a front row seat for the practice press conference. And while I didn't ask the question that prompted, we talking about practice, I asked the follow-up.
Alan, is it possible, though, that from where he's coming from, if you practice, not you would be better, but your teammates would be better?
How the hell can I make my teammates better by practicing?
That was a seminal moment for Allen Iverson. They happen to all of us. They can be good, they can be bad, they can be personal, they can be professional, but they are definitely game changers. And when Iverson's happened, he didn't even realize it. He didn't realize that those 4 words, we're talking about practice, would come to define him as much as his fearlessness on the court and his brashness off of it. Philly is, you know, I think on a national level, it's really misunderstood as a sports town. The people here care so deeply about their teams, but all they want from them and their athletes is that for them to compete and give their maximum effort and reach their potential, whatever that potential is. But if you're not trying hard and if you don't care as much as they do, they're going to run you out of town. And so I grew tougher here, I grew harder, and I grew, I think, to be even more passionate about what I do. My first key to success: perceive the impossible as possible. I was a little girl growing up in North Carolina. My father was a college basketball coach. I loved sports. I was an athlete. I loved to write. And I decided I wanted to be a sports writer. My parents kept telling me, you know, you should go to business school. And my father would say, you're trying to enter a male-dominated profession. It's going to be really hard for you because you're a female. And oh, by the way, you're not going to make any money. So at one point, I scanned the landscape of sports media, and I looked for the highest profile female I could find. And at that time, it was a lady named Leslie Visser. So I wrote her a letter, and I explained to her my situation, my experience, my career goals, and the frustration and discouragement that I was bumping up against. And I want to share with you what she told me, some no-name college student who had written her a letter. For women, knowledge is power. If you can tell when UNLV switches from its amoeba zone to man-to-man, there will be a place for you. Leslie Visser, the highest profile female sports journalist in the country, took the time to write me a letter. How would you feel? I felt energized. I felt invigorated. I felt like I can do this. I must do this. And 6 months after I got that letter, I walked into the Time and Life building in New York City as a reporter for Sports Illustrated, and I never looked back. I became a sports writer because I loved sports and I loved writing. And as a kid whose father was a college basketball coach and then later an entrepreneur dealing with sports, I grew up around some of the greatest college basketball players of all time. Guys like Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Ralph Sampson. These were people who had an important impact on me in my childhood. So when I was in high school, I was like, of course I'm going to be a sports writer. My 4th key to success: listen. I'm in the communications business. I have spent my career asking questions, listening to answers, and then telling people what I know and what I think. And I think what people miss about communication is that it's just not talking, but listening. My favorite place to listen at ESPN was the green room. And in the fall, the green room was populated by a who's who of the NFL. On Monday nights, Chris Berman ruled the room. And he would needle me constantly. Ashley, why are you so quiet? Why can't you share? Why don't you just talk a little? I want to hear what you have to say. And then he'd tell me a story about Andy Reid or something Harbaugh had told him, just to let me know that he was in communication with the people I was in communication with, and that we shared a common bond. I was laid off by ESPN along with 100 other front-facing talent. And a couple weeks after I got laid off, it was a Monday night about 5 o'clock. I was making dinner for my kids. And my phone rang. It was Boomer. And Boomer said to me, he's like, I'm so sorry, Ashley. Whatever you need, just let me know. Well, the next day, his wife of 38 years, Kathy, was killed in a car accident. Just like that, she was killed. That was real pain. I went to Kathy Berman's memorial service in Connecticut, and it was really tough because all the ESPN executives were there, the ones who decided to lay me off. And at the reception following the memorial service, I stood in line with Andy and Tammy Reid for over an hour waiting to see Boomer. And when I got up to him, he says to me, first thing, "Are you here today because I called you that day?" I said, "No, Boom. I'm here because you told me you would be here for me, and I want you to know that I'm here for you." And that meant something to him because I had listened to him. And that gave me perspective. I'd lost the job I'd worked my entire career to get. But Boomer lost his wife. He lost the love of his life, the mother of his kids. So I picked myself up and I dusted myself off. And I realized that my broadcast career didn't define me. What defined me was my ability to communicate, my belief in the impossible, my ability to build and nurture and maintain relationships, my integrity, and my ability to listen. And not even the worldwide leader in sports could take that away from me. And no one can take it away from you either. When you walk out of a talk of mine, you will appreciate communication. You will appreciate the art of listening. You will act with integrity. And you will work to develop and maintain relationships because you never know who you're working with now. That junior employee, next thing you know, he or she could be running the next Fortune 500 company. And you will have tools that will help you that aren't about balancing a budget or hitting a sales goal, but are about bigger picture things that will make you become a better employee and hopefully a better leader.
We did a discussion last year, a wonderful presentation, and on the panel, Pat Croce and Jim Lair were among others on it. And Ashley stole the show from my perspective because she was so even and so pleasant and so able to deliver a message of consequence, a message that everybody in the audience could connect with, in part because they had kids who were going to school, and Ashley knew what that was all about. When you listen to her, you'll understand why I believe she's as good a speaker as I've heard in years. I strongly recommend her. I can't say enough good things about her, either as a speaker or as a person.